is Ron Kennedy, author of the book Crazy Grace and pastor at NoCondemnation.net. I want to tell you guys something today. There's a reason why we're here. There's a reason that we were created. That reason all falls under the umbrella of the grace of God. That reason is because He loves us, He honors us, and He cherishes us. The reason that we were born was for Jesus. If we were born for Him, what are we going to do for Him? Maybe today is the time that we all make the honest decision to become Jesus freaks.
Don't mind the static, it's automatic. The showstopper.
Let's go ahead and open our Bibles to Galatians chapter 2 and verse 20. And what I'm going to do today is I am going to define the Jesus freak. We are going to set the standard in establishing what a Jesus freak is and how they should live. Before you hang up, before you disconnect, before you change and go to another website, let me challenge you, please pay attention to what's going on tonight, because I guarantee you, this will blow your mind. Galatians chapter 2. Wait a minute. It seems like there's still a light shining somewhere that ought not. Let's remember, we've got to turn off all of the lights that we've had on all of these years. We've got to turn off all of the thought processes and all of the patterns that we've followed our whole lives. We've got to change our minds as it relates to who God is, to who Jesus is. You want to be a Jesus freak? You want to know what crazy grace is? I'm challenging you to dive into this thing with us today and watch as something remarkable takes place. Galatians chapter 2, verse 20. Paul says, I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. Listen, the life I live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave Himself for me. You see, the Jesus freak will come to the realization that it's nothing that we are. It's not about how we live our lives. It's not about what standard or what goal we are meeting. It's not about how good we are. It's not about how bad we are. It's not about how strong we are spiritually. It's not about how big we are with our finances. It's not about how powerful we are mentally. Becoming a Jesus freak is all about realizing whose life we're living. We are not living our own lives. I do not live according to Ron Kennedy's grandeur. I do not live according to my own thought patterns. I do not live according to my own ideologies. I live according to Christ. The life I live is Christ's life. The first step that many of you are going to find the hardest is to simply die. You have to crucify yourself. You have to allow all of what you are just to perish, just to lay in the grass and rot away like a twig that has fallen from a branch. You see, you have to realize that it doesn't matter what you are, who you are, or how much authority or power or stature you have. You have to realize all that matters is who Christ is living in you. You see, it doesn't matter about the sin that may be permeating and maybe growing and maybe sinking its teeth into your body. It doesn't matter how frail you are. It doesn't matter how many mistakes you may have made. It doesn't matter about all of that stuff. And unfortunately, in the church today, we claim to be all about Jesus. We claim to be all about Christ. We claim to be Christians. We teach the Christian religion. We teach Christianity. We teach all of these doctrines. But do you know what we're missing? Do you know what we're not realizing? What we're missing is the fact that it's not about you and me. It's about Jesus. It's not about what we can do. It's not about me stopping the sin in my life. Did you hear that? It's about the power of Christ living in us. I am a Jesus freak today because I did not stop sinning, but Jesus Christ started living. Did you catch it? I'm a Jesus freak today because I didn't stop sinning, but Jesus Christ started living. The New American Standard Bible does not word it exactly as the NIV does. The New American Standard says it is not I, but Christ who lives. This is not my life. Do you understand? And it's not yours either. The life that you are living is Christ's life. Before you think I'm getting legalistic about this, I'm not. The life that you are living is Christ's life, and He is totally pleased. He is totally pleased with who you are. Maybe you're not tall enough, but because you're a Jesus freak, you're not concerned with how tall you are. You're only concerned with who Jesus is. Maybe you don't have the ability of sound speech. Maybe you can't come in here in this makeshift studio. Maybe you can't be here at the Crazy Grace Network preaching behind this oaken podium. Maybe you can't do all that stuff. But it doesn't matter. You're a Jesus freak because you realize that Jesus is living in you and doing what He wants through you. Maybe today you do have a sin problem. Maybe you are trying your best to overcome the pornography that's raging on your computer screen every single day. Maybe you're trying your best to get out of this sexual addiction. Maybe you're a homosexual or a lesbian. Maybe you're trapped in the bondage of decay. Maybe you're so deep and you're so dark that you can't see a way out. Maybe you have figured, maybe you got your mind set on the fact that you're doomed. Let me express something to you. Let me tell you something from the bottomless depth of my heart. Christ at this point in your life is not concerned with the homosexuality. He is only concerned with you accepting Him as your Lord and Savior. Being a Jesus freak is the fact that you do not worry with who you are. You worry with who Christ is. Paul says, not I, but Christ. My life is Christ's. There's more that needs to be known about being a Jesus freak. If you'll turn back now to the Gospel according to Luke and chapter 10, we're going to learn about being a Jesus freak right now. Verse 38, Luke recounts to us, as Jesus and His disciples were on their way, He came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to Him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what He said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to Him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. Martha seems to be a lot like the great majority of us. We're too busy trying to prepare ourselves for Christ, when all we need to be doing is listening to the Word that He is speaking. We're busy rooting the sin out of our lives. We're busy going way down deep. And we're busy saying, well, wait a minute, that may be wrong, that may be right, that may be wrong, that may be right. While we're not focusing on Jesus. Martha wanted to make sure that the drapes were looking just right. Martha wanted to make sure that Jesus had enough pillows, enough blankets. Martha wanted to make sure that the food wasn't too hot. And she certainly didn't want it too cool. She had to make sure that there was enough ice in the lemonade to get Jesus through the night. She wanted to quench His thirst. She wanted to make sure everything was prepared in the right order. Whereas I want to tell you something. It's not about you preparing any kind of order. It's not about you setting anything straight in your life. What it's about is Jesus Christ living in you. Watch what Jesus says to Martha. He says, Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things, but only one thing is needed. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. Martha was working. Nothing wrong with work. In fact, if we don't work, we don't live. And we must go out. We must put our hands to the plow. But Mary had her mind in the right place, didn't she? Mary wasn't so worried about the drapery. Mary wasn't so worried if the sham was straightened. Mary didn't care if the dishwasher was overflowing. She didn't care if the sink was overflowing. Mary wasn't too concerned with the cobwebs on the lampshade. What Mary was worried with was Jesus. She was sitting at His feet intently, contently, listening to every word that He was saying. And do you know what some of those words may have been? Seek first my kingdom and my righteousness, and everything else will be added unto you. Had Martha been quick to put down all of her work and focus on Jesus, she may have heard about what was most important. And I find it interesting that Martha took the time to race toward Jesus. And she said, look, I'm doing all this work. I'm putting all this work into you. And my sister's sitting over here flippantly listening to stories about you in Galilee, or you walking on some water, or you doing this, that, and the other. What on earth am I doing that's not worthy? Make her come work with me. And then Jesus said, Mary has chosen the right path. Mary is focused on the right thing. She's looking at what's important. She is seeing what needs to be seen. She is viewing the one thing that needs to be viewed. She is not worried about cobwebs. She's not worried about porridge. She's not worried about 1, 2, or 3 ice cubes. She doesn't care about how many cubes of sugar's in my coffee. She only cares about the word that I'm speaking. Let me tell you something, viewer. The word that Jesus is speaking is all that matters. You call yourself a Jesus freak. You put on the WWJD bracelet. You walk around with your chest poked out, beating it like the gorilla that you think you are because you're a Christian. But are you really a Christian, or are you a man who's trying to please Christ? Let me break it down for you. Martha didn't please Christ with all of the hard work that she put into preparing her house. And you're not going to please Christ with all of the hard work you put into preparing yourself. All He wants you to do is sit down and meditate on Him. A Jesus freak is a man who freaks out every opportunity that he gets to enter the presence of Jesus. A Jesus freak is a woman who sets aside every standard that may be in front of her and realizes that it's not her life she's living, it's Christ, and that's all she wants to focus on. Are you a Jesus freak? Are you focused on Jesus, or are you focused on how good you can be? You know, the Jesus freak thing goes a little deeper. There's a great story in the book of Acts of a Jesus freak. This Jesus freak was a man whom in life and in death would not take his eyes off of Christ. You know, a Jesus freak in today's society is a person who, no matter what, will not take their eyes off of Jesus. If we'll go to Acts chapter 7, we're going to look starting in 54. We're going to read through verse 56. Watch this. When they, the Jews, the Pharisees, the religious people, when they heard this, the message of